So how can we bring up this topic with family and friends when the topic is so polarized? It's a great question, and maybe it's sad to say that I've been in many kinds of conversations that are polarized, I've seen more. I haven't seen a lot of success in some of these polarized conversations, so I do think it's a very real challenge. I think there are some principles of dialoguing across polarized differences that I think are true to any polarized conversation. Number one, I think we need to have a posture of humility. If we have a certain viewpoint we want somebody to consider, and we come off like an activist or belligerent or demeaning towards the other person and their viewpoint, just psychologically walls immediately go up and there's just no hope of a conversation. So I think we need to demonstrate humility. um, we need to be genuinely curious in the other person's position, be kind of Socratic in a gentle way, not in a interrogative way, but really try to understand where's somebody coming from, and show genuine interest. Like, don't just show that, like, actually be interested in a good faith way in somebody else's position. Um, and only after you've done that is there even a possibility that somebody would even give you airtime for your position. Um, Also, maybe find some points of agreement too. That's another big one that psychologists often bring up. You know, if you can identify areas where you're like, you know what, this concern of yours, I resonate with that. Um, I think that it lowers the temperature a little bit to show that you're not coming in just trying to win an argument. For example, in the Israel Palestine, let's just say, conversation, I think it's important for people that are more sympathetic with the Palestinian cause to show deep, deep, deep remorse and condemnation of all the evil that happened on October 7th. Now, if you've been in this conversation, you know that this didn't start on October 7th. It might have started in 1967 or even 47, 48, or even 1917, or even the late 1900s. If you've studied this, you know that, like, there's a whole history here, and there's a context, and there's a reason, maybe not legitimate, but a reason why October 7th happened. I would suggest not going there. Like, you start doing that, and if somebody is on, for instance, a more pro-Israel side, I think all they're going to hear is you justifying terrorism, and they're just going to shut down, no conversation. So I think unapologetically, full stop, condemn the evil that happened on October 7th. I don't think we need to go into details about the Hannibal Directive. We don't need to go into details about some of the myths and lies that were shared about what didn't happen on October 7th. Like, if you, maybe those are conversations for another time, but I think if you start with that, it looks like you're justifying October 7th. So I think find some common ground, because that's where a lot of people are starting with. This was absolutely evil. I can't have a conversation with anybody unless they can affirm that. So affirm it. I can affirm that. You could, hopefully, if you're a Christian, you can affirm that. Um, yeah. So I also, I have found more success when people feel like their view is being represented. If they, so this is, several months ago, I hosted a conversation, kind of a dialogical debate across this, where I tried to find the best voices on the pro-Israel side and the best voices on the more pro-Palestinian side, for lack of better terms. I don't even like the way those categories are often framed, but um, when people can come in and see, okay, I know somebody's not just going to try to pull the wool over my eyes. They're not just going to give me a one-sided picture. They're exposing me to the best representation of these different viewpoints, so that I don't feel like I'm being had. I think that is a really good way to help people see, um, maybe be opened up to the possibility of being more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, when that cause is put in conversation with somebody who's more ardent on the pro-Israel side. So yeah. So, I mean, as Jonathan Haidt has argued, 90% of our beliefs are formed by intuition and emotion, not intellect. So if you think you can just pound somebody with factual evidence, that's typically not going to persuade them. I think we need to speak to their intuition, their emotions, their heart, and not just think we can bury somebody with factual evidence and think that's going to change their viewpoint. The more entrenched they are in the viewpoint, the more you need to get below the kind of rational stuff, and speak to the heart of why they are so entrenched in this. Obviously, oftentimes there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of emotional things that are just sort of callousing over their viewpoint, and we need to kind of address those concerns before we can think we can just kind of bury somebody with factual evidence. And I know this from experience because I'm one who loves to pile on factual evidence, and I'm often beating my head up against the wall when I give all these facts and somebody's just like, it's like, well, that's because there's something deeper, more emotional at root to a person's viewpoint. So yeah, those are some thoughts, yeah, on that question.